Alright guys, today is an episode of the Best of the Rest, covering some of the World Cups action that I haven't actually covered already. So we'll start off with Netherlands beating Senegal 2-0. Now this wasn't exactly a thriller, but it was a good start to the game. The opening 20 minutes saw both sides causing problems, no real clear-cut chances. Well, actually you could argue the Netherlands had a couple where they should have done better, but didn't even get a shot off. Gakpo failed to square it to Bergwijn, tried to get it into his path but couldn't. And the big one was Frenkie de Jong. That was the big chance in the first half. He got played through on goal. If he'd have taken it on his left foot, he'd have got a shot off goal, and who knows, potentially could have scored. But instead he tries to bring it back onto his right foot. And a player as technically good as he is should be confident enough to try and hit it with his left foot. So that was a bit of a waste of an opportunity there. It was an interesting setup from Holland though. They played a three at the back and sort of well, 3-4-3 it sort of was, but actually in play that's what it was on paper. But in play, it was almost like a 4-2-4 at times, because you had the wing backs in Denzel Dumfries and Daley Blind, two very different types of players. Dumfries was obviously getting forward more, almost playing as a right winger at times, and then Blind would tuck in and everyone would move across, like the defence, and De Ligt ended up playing right back, more so than centre back at times. So yeah, it was an interesting setup, and it did seem to work, to be fair. And yeah, as the first half went on, the pace of the game definitely got slower. Chances really dried up towards the end of the first half and start of the second half as well. And part of the problem I felt was Vincent Janssen really struggling to make an impact up front for Holland, and he did get subbed off around the 60th minute for Memphis Depay, and when Depay came on he did make a difference to the Netherlands team. And Senegal, they started to get a couple of chances around the 70th minute mark, but they just didn't seem to have enough creativity in midfield. Now obviously the elephant in the room is Sadio Mane's injured, and that's a massive loss for them. But in their midfield, it was midfield three of Kouyaté, Nampalys Mendy, and I can't remember who the other one was now. Kouyaté, Papi Mendy. Someone else in midfield, I can't remember who it was, and it just didn't look creative enough at all, to be honest. It was three very defensively minded players. Oh, Idrissa Gana Gueye, obviously. And yeah, a midfield three of defensive minded players who aren't going to get forward, so there was a bit of a disconnect between their midfield and their attack. But nonetheless, Ismaïla Sarr, to be fair to him, did cause a few problems throughout the game, so fair play to him. But yeah, they just never looked like a team that were going to be big hitters in this tournament. Just not creative enough at all, really. And yeah, Holland, yeah, they just did a lot more with the ball throughout the game, to be completely honest. And yeah, but another problem Holland had though before they got their goals was that because they're playing Blind as a left back, they had very little coming down the left, so it was quite predictable how they were going to attack. It was clearly going to be through Gakpo and Dumfries on the right hand side, so that didn't cause Senegal many problems, or as many problems as it might have done. But they did get the goal, and it was a brilliant pick out for de Jong and good header by Gakpo. Edouard Mendy didn't cover himself in glory for either goal. The second one, he pushed Depay's shot right into Davy Klaasen's path, so he should have done a lot better in my opinion. Like, I'm not expecting him to hold on to it, but just, you know, push it out wide or behind the goal. He's a better goalkeeper than that, and he has been in poor form recently. It has Edouard Mendy. But yeah, I felt Holland, that they deserved it on the entirety of the game in terms of the chances that did come their way. And yeah, it was a bit lacklustre from Senegal, to be honest. And then the USA and Wales played out a 1-1 draw in a game which was very much the definition of a game of two halves. USA far better first half. They looked like a really good team, and I was sat there watching it thinking, this like they'll probably get through the groups and potentially get to like the quarterfinals or something based on how they were performing. But second half was a different story though, so we'll get into it. I mean, the national anthems before the game, Wales, Jesus Christ, bit of passion in that, wasn't there? And yeah, USA, they set the tempo high early on in the game. They were putting some hefty challenges, especially Serginho Dest and Weston McKennie, I thought. And yeah, the football so quick and very like vertical, I would say. It's not side to side. It was very much get the ball forward as quickly as possible with quick short passes. And Wales did survive the early pressure from USA and nearly scored the calamitous own goal with Joe Rodon being quite lucky that Wayne Hennessy was at that point in his goal. Otherwise, that could have gone horrendously. But yeah, it was a really clever move to create the space for Timothy Weah in the USA goal. Brilliant play from Pulisic to play him through, but I did think that Joe Rodon, I think it was, or it might have been Chris Mepham, was pulled out of position quite easily to generate the space, which was smart, but at the same time, it was too easy, you can also say. So that yeah, that was the main problem for Wales with the goal, but it was a well taken goal and really well created. And you always felt in the first half that Wales were just lacking someone up front to hold the ball up, because they started a front three or a front two of Gareth Bale and Dan James. Harry Wilson was often dropping back into midfield, and I can understand why they did it. You want Dan James's pace to be a problem on the counter attack, but at the same time they were getting the ball up there, and I think it was Tim Ream and Zimmerman were just winning every single ball that came their way. So it was too easy for USA to deal with. So when they brought Kiefer Moore on at half time, that substitute just completely changed the game, and Wales started causing problems all of a sudden just because they've got someone up there who can hold the ball up better and help get Wales further up the pitch. Because as soon as Kiefer Moore can take the ball down, that means players like Gareth Bale, even midfielders like Aaron Ramsey, Ethan Ampadu, the wing backs Connor Roberts and Nico Williams can just get further up the pitch straight away, and then they can get back onto the front foot. And they did create chances in the first 20 minutes of the second half, and big chances as well. Ben Davies and Kiefer Moore both had a couple of really good chances. And then the tempo from Wales around 70th minute mark just started to drop a little bit, and you're thinking, oh no, they've missed their chance, they're starting to run out of steam here. But just as they look a bit tired and whatnot, they brought on a couple of subs. Brennan Johnson came on, and then they got the penalty. It was a brilliant move, brilliant way to hold the ball and use your body to win a penalty from Gareth Bale, because he knew that the defender was going to try and win the ball, so he's put his body in the way between the man and the ball, and I think it was Zimmerman went through him, and correct decision to give a penalty, and Gareth Bale took it, ice in his veins, whacks it into the back of the net, keeper goes the right way but still doesn't have a chance. So yeah, brilliantly taken penalty, and what a way to score your first World Cup goal in 64 years. I mean, there was only going to be one man who was going to score it, wasn't there? But yeah, Wales's fight and team spirit definitely was the thing that got them back into the game. I thought a draw was a fair result based on how the game went. But I do want to say one thing. I mean, fair play to Nico Williams for putting in a performance like that after the terrible news he had the day before about his granddad dying. So yeah, really strong performance from him considering the circumstances. But yeah, really good game to watch that. USA much better first half, Wales much better second half. And then with what I would say was the game of the tournament so far, Saudi Arabia somehow managed to beat Argentina by 2 goals to 1 in an all-time great game. This will be one of the tournament. This will be one of the games that defines this tournament. It'll be remembered for many years. This game. And Argentina completely dominated the first half. They had the ball in the back of the net 4 times. The first one came from penalty, correct decision. There was grappling in the box. Paredes was bear hugged to the ground. And referees in the past haven't spotted this, but at this tournament, VAR has started to pick up on this, which I'm happy about because in the past we've seen defenders get away with far too much when it comes to set pieces. And Messi tucked away the penalty, and then Argentina they were continuing to attack, get forward. Messi, Di Maria, all playing nice passes through. Lautaro Martinez as well, and the first one Messi narrowly offside before he scored. Lautaro Martinez for the third one, even tighter, and it was barely offside. Martinez's second, well, his first. And what would have been Argentina's third if they'd have all counted. And then the other one that Martinez had in the back of the net, he was quite a way offside, and I thought Messi delayed the pass a little bit too long. But even so, the goals were well taken, even if they were disallowed. And but Argentina, they weren't taking their chances though. They were getting in good positions, and they were either wasting them or just not taking them, wasting them because they're offside or positioning was wrong. But the one thing you do have to credit Saudi Arabia for in the first half was that defensive line was amazing. Every time, all four right in a line. There was no one slightly behind, no one slightly stepped forward. It was perfect. And you did have to feel a little bit for Salman Al Faraj going off injured, the captain for Saudi Arabia. But it didn't seem to affect them in the end, though. And the linesman in the first half must have just had cramp in his arms the amount of times he was having to raise his flag. But Argentina were threatening going forward, but Saudi Arabia just dealt with it really well. And second half, Saudi Arabia, they just started really well. They started with a lot of intensity. And they got their goal through Al-Shehri. It was a really well taken finish. He took the ball past Romero. Romero, I thought, came forward a little bit too far and was maybe a little bit too confident and got caught out slightly. But it was a really well taken finish. And the winner, what turned out to be the winner, was a brilliant strike from Al Dossari. And just whipped it right into the top corner. And in that 5-minute period where Saudi Arabia was on top, that was the only 5 minutes in the entire game, I believe, where they had, they'd actually, had shots on target. I think they only had 3 shots on target the entire game. And it was enough to win the game for them, because even after they went in front, they still defended remarkably well. And I thought that there were a few weaknesses for Argentina. I thought Alejandro Gomez didn't have his greatest game ever. He just didn't do enough on the ball for me. And Rodrigo de Paul, I thought, was poor in midfield. I'd have started Alexis McAllister instead, because every time I've seen de Paul play, I've never really been impressed with him, to be completely honest. And McAllister is a player who, even though he's playing for Brighton, and Brighton are a good side, he's been in great form so far this season. So I think you could argue he deserves a starting place over de Paul in midfield. But other than that, I didn't think Argentina were actually that bad. I just thought Saudi Arabia were really good defensively. Towards the end of the game, Argentina did start to get a little bit desperate. Chances were sort of falling their way, and there were a couple you thought maybe they could have done better with that. But the main thing at the end of the game is that Al-Shirani is actually still alive, because that was a horrendous head collision with the goalkeeper. His head went full back. He was playing full back, actually, to be fair. But no, his head just went all the way back. His whole body, in fact, just flipped like a disc. And he landed on his back, and his head hit the ground a little bit as well. So the fact that he was even conscious after that was, a miracle. But that could have gone a lot worse. But Argentina's 36-game run, unbeaten run, is over. And what a game that was. Fair play, Saudi Arabia. And then Denmark and Tunisia played the opening game in Group D, and it wasn't exactly a thriller, but it was an interesting game to watch. Out of the 3 0-0s we've had so far in this tournament, I'd say it was the most entertaining one, to be honest. I mean, the tone for the game was set from Tunisia by Laidouni in the first minute or so. He put in a really strong challenge on the Denmark player, I think it might have been Eriksson, and it just like celebrated it as if it was a goal and just like pounded his chest in front of the Tunisia fans, and yeah, that just got the atmosphere going like tenfold. Like, Tunisia fans, fair play to them, they created one hell of a noise throughout the game. And yeah, it was a lively start from Tunisia. First half, I felt they were probably the better side. Denmark really struggled to get going in the first half, and Tunisia did have the chances. They had the ball in the back of the net for Jabali up front. It was correctly ruled out for offside though, but they were getting more chances than Denmark were in the first half. They had a shot deflected just wide as well. And I was really impressed with Msakni for Tunisia. He was sort of playing as like a second striker to Jabali at times, and he looked like a real good player who could slide through a good pass at any point in the game. And yeah, Jabali also had another really good chance, which was saved by Schmeichel in the first half as well. It may have been disallowed for offside again, but it was still a brilliant save by Schmeichel nonetheless. And then a bit of a change in the game happened for Denmark, because the sort of 3-5-2 they'd started the game with the midfield three of Højbjerg, Delaney and Eriksson. It had to change a bit because Delaney came off injured, and then they put Damsgaard on, and that changed it a little bit to like a 3-4-3. But in the second half though, with how they were playing, with getting the wing backs forward really far, Denmark, it was almost like a WM formation at times, like something for like the 1930s, because you had the back three in defence of Andersen, Kjær and Christensen at the back. Then you had Eriksson and Højbjerg just in front of that, and then behind that, in front of that, you had Skov Olsen and also Damsgaard, and then you had a front three of almost like the two wing backs and Dolberg up front. So it was a really interesting formation at the start of the second half from Denmark, and it did sort of work in a way, because Denmark in the second half did get back into the game a little bit and performed a lot better in the second half. Their original game plan though just definitely didn't work at all, far too negative, and not even defensively solid, to be honest. So yeah, they did start to create chances. Cornelius, how on earth he missed that? I mean, it came at him quick. It was an awkward height though, but still, you felt as though you just have to bundle it in no matter what, no matter how you do it. And we are getting a few players this tournament who you haven't heard of for years. Like Cornelius, I haven't heard of him for about 8 years, since he was last playing for Cardiff in the Prem. There's also been Enner Valencia, Brian Ruiz yesterday for Costa Rica as well. It's bizarre that it happens every World Cup, I know, but it still feels weird when it does happen. But yeah, Tunisia's intensity that they had in the first half did gradually decrease. They did defend solidly, to be fair. Did well to keep Denmark from getting any major chances. Denmark did have the ball in the back of the net from a shot from Skov Olsen though in the second half, but it was disallowed, and there was a penalty shout towards the end of the game as well, but I thought that would have been really harsh had that been given. There was nothing Tunisia defender, I'm not sure which player it was, but there was nothing he could do about it. He just comes off his chest and hits his arm. Never a penalty for me. So it was the correct decision, and VAR wanted to give the penalty, but the referee, fair play to him, he held his ground, stood his ground, sorry, and kept by his decision, which was the correct one for me. And yeah, the subs of and change of formation definitely were the thing that helped Denmark get back into the game, because in the first half it was really only going one way, and yeah, once the change in the flow of the game did happen, Tunisia did deal with Denmark's pressure really well, I thought. And then France beat Australia by 4-1 in a game which had an early shock in it. Australia taking the lead through Goodwin, and it was a brilliant goal, really good cross from Leckie, and a really well taken finish from Goodwin, because he could have skied it over the bar, but he just used the inside of his foot and put it into the roof of the net. Really good finish, and what started the game from Australia. In fact, the first 15-20 minutes, they were probably the team on top. France really struggled to get going. For me, it was only like when Lucas Hernandez got injured. Now, Lucas Hernandez is a good player, but I always think his brother, Theo Hernandez, looks better whenever he plays. He's a player that France needed in this situation, an attacking fullback, someone who's going to cause the opposition problems and link up with Kylian Mbappe on the left. And that's what he did when he came on. And that substitution did change the momentum and the direction that the game was going in. So yeah, I thought that was a really, needed substitution from France. And yeah, that's when they started to get on top. They pulled one back through Rabiot. In fact, Rabiot was heavily involved in the first 2 goals, a goal and an assist. Rabiot's not a footballer I like. I think he's one of these where his ego's bigger than his talent. But I got to give him praise for his performance on Tuesday, because he did play really well and was a big reason France won the game. He took his goal well, really good header, and him and Mbappe, brilliant pressing to win the ball back in a dangerous situation for Australia, and he squared it to Giroud for his 50th France goal. So yeah, good performance. And then second half was when France really got on top. I should mention though that Australia did have a couple of chances towards the end of the first half. They did hit the post right at the end. So fair play to them. I mean, considering their team is primarily made up of Australian A-League, Scottish Premier League and Championship footballers, the fact that they even made this a game is incredible in itself, to be honest, because they are the massive underdogs in this situation. So yeah, the fact that they even made it a game was impressive, and they were really sharp from the off. It did feel inevitable that France would get back into it though, unfortunately for them. But yeah, second half, France just dominated, to be honest. The more goals were definitely going to come, and Mbappe and Dembele were just causing all sorts of problems. Mbappe in particular, his acceleration is just unreal. Like he can keep it up as well. He can run quick over long distances and even over 10 yards. He's got brilliant acceleration and speed. So he is just like a really dangerous forward to come up against. And I know that's not new news, that everyone knows that. But yeah, Giroud got his 51st French goal, which is significant because it ties him with Thierry Henry. He only needs one more to become France's official all-time top goal scorer, which, I mean, he deserves a lot more respect, because Giroud gets hammered at times, and the things he's achieved in his career are special. So he's one of these footballers that never gets the credit he deserves for how good he's been throughout his career. And he's 36 now, and to be still playing at this level, like, he's a similar age to Ronaldo, but he's a far better footballer than Cristiano Ronaldo right now. I'm just going to put that out there. Olivier Giroud in 2022 is a better footballer than Cristiano Ronaldo. That shouldn't be groundbreaking. That should be common knowledge. So yeah, the other thing I really liked about France was Griezmann playing in a central midfield role. He's had a rough few years since leaving Atletico Madrid, but it feels like he's almost found his position where he can operate at his best now, because in central midfield he was brilliant. He can create as well as score goals, and he was unlucky not to score before France got their third and fourth. And yeah, Kylian Mbappe did really well to get the third goal for France. It was a really well-timed run from Dembele's cross, and Giroud got the fourth, as I said, the 51st goal that he scored for France. Again, really well taken, really well created from Mbappe. So yeah, France, it took them time to get going, but eventually they looked like a really solid team. And shout out, by the way, to Jason Cummings coming off the bench for Australia. Shrewsbury will never forget what he did in the FA Cup in 2020. But yeah, France did respond well to the early shock that they had in this game. And then the final game I wanted to cover today was Japan beating Germany. Now, this isn't the same level of shock as Saudi Arabia and Argentina, but it's still a great underdog story. And this World Cup, some of the shocks it's throwing on the pitch are great. And I know there's a lot of controversy off the pitch with human rights, LGBT, you know, like being fair, like everyone being equal sort of thing. That there's problems with that, but on the pitch it is a great tournament so far. And this game, Japan's made a solid start. They had a couple of early chances, but after about the 20th minute, Germany just started to dominate and played some really good football. They should have had probably 3 goals, I think, in this game. There was a moment where Gundogan decided to shoot from about 25 yards instead of playing David Raum in on the left, who had like half the Pacific Ocean to himself, and could have easily got a good shot off and had a good chance at scoring if it had got to him. But yeah, Japan's main threat, I felt in the first half, was Ito down the right. It was get the ball to him and see what he can do, if he can whip across into Maeda. He did, and Maeda scored, but he did get correctly disallowed for offside. But yeah, one of the main problems Japan had defensively, though, was that Sakai at right back was leaving far too much space in behind for Raum at left back, or even one of the forwards like Havertz or Thomas Müller, and that was a major problem for them, because it just left too many gaps, and that's where Germany were causing their problems from the left, and that's where the goal came from. It came from Raum having too much space, the goalkeeper having to try and get the ball of him, made the foul, and yeah, gave away the penalty, and Gundogan scored the penalty. But to be fair to Gonda in goal for Japan, he more than made up with it with the amount of saves he made throughout the second half. He kept Japan in the game in the early second half with the amount of saves he made. Germany did have a goal disallowed from Havertz. It was a well-worked move again, and Havertz tapped it in, but he was correctly adjudicated to be offside. And yeah, I did think Japan's back four was questionable at times, and in the second half, fair play to the manager, he made a change. He changed it to a 5 at the back or a 3 at the back with wing backs. That meant that Sakai was pushed to a wing back role, giving him less defensive responsibility, allowing him to push further up the pitch. And also, Kamada was pushed out wide to the left, which meant he was getting more of the ball, because in the first half he was playing in a number 10 role, and he wasn't really seeing much of the ball at all, to be completely honest. And yeah, it's start of the second half, first 20 minutes or so, Germany just completely dominated. And Musiala for Germany was just different gravy with the ball at his feet. Some of the things he can do with a football were just incredible. And Germany did make a couple of changes. They brought off some of their experienced players, one of them being Thomas Müller. And when they did this, it changed the game a little bit. And Japan made a few subs as well. I don't know why Tomiyasu didn't start the game. They also brought on Minamino, Asano and Mitoma as well, and that just made a huge difference. These are players that like the average person knows, and I can understand why they weren't starting, because when they did come on, they made a difference, especially Minamino, Mitoma and Asano. That just creating chances right from when they were on the pitch, and the way Japan got back into the game was from Minamino squaring it, Neuer pushing it away, and then Doan, another substitute, managed to get the rebound and follow it in and equalise. And just before that, Rudiger had one of these really weird moments that he has every now and again. He just decides to do something really strange, and he does this run where he lifts his legs about 2 metres in the air, really bizarre. And then from then onwards, it was just like he jinxed Germany by doing that. I don't know why he does it, but yeah, Japan, they won the game. Brilliant goal from Asano to win it. It was poor defending from Germany for the goal, because it was just a ball over the top, but it was brilliant to take from Asano, who I remember Arsenal signing, but he just never really got a chance at Arsenal because he had that many injuries. So fair to play to him for taking his opportunity in this game. He did really well to score it. And yeah, just another amazing game of football. Germany now needs a result against Spain to get through this group, but I mean, what a difference the subs made in this game.